Thea Stilton. Mouseford Academy, a Mouseford musical. Scholastic. What will it be? It was a sunny morning, and the students at Mouseford Academy were busier than ever. School would be ending soon, and everyone was talking about the same thing: what would the end of the year show be? This year was especially exciting because it was the first year of the Department of Arts, Music, and Drama. Headed by Professor Kamil Ratishnikov, the department was popular with many of the students, including the 5 Thea sisters. The show is only a month away, said Paulina excitedly. Paulina and the other Thea sisters were headed across campus to clean up the old greenhouse. Well, I heard that the professors are being very secretive about what show we're doing, said blonde-haired Colette, who carried a box of small rosebushes. But we do know that it will be a musical, said Violet, who played the violin. Won't that be amazing? There will be singing, dancing, drama. Tryouts will be intense, said Pam. Definitely, agreed Nikki. I need to practice my dance moves. But first, we need to clean up this greenhouse for Professor Ratcliffe. It will look so fabulous when we're done, said Colette. I can't wait to plant these roses. These lights will look beautiful, said Violet. And so will these flags, if I can get them apart, added Pam, looking at the tangled decorations she was carrying. The decorations are a great idea, Nikki said. We're going to bring that old greenhouse back to life. Just then, Professor Rosalind Ply came walking down the path toward them. The professor of dance at the academy, she was part of the team involved in planning the musical. She had a worried look on her snout and did not seem to notice the Thea sisters. Good morning, Professor, Nikki said. Oh, good morning, replied Professor Ply, stopping in front of them. I didn't mean to ignore you. I'm on my way to a meeting for the big year-end show, and I have a lot on my mind. Is it true that it will be a musical? Asked Violet. And if it is, can you give us a hint what it is? Pam asked. The Sound of Cheddar? Phantom of the Cheese Factory? Yes, please tell us the title. Colette joined in. Professor Ply sighed. How could she confess to these excited students that she did not have the faintest idea? An inspiring mess. I'm sorry, but I can't tell you, Professor Ply replied. You see, the meeting is about to start and we dash sensational news, a voice interrupted. It was Tanya, the president of the Lizard Club, coming out of nowhere like a bolt of lightning. The professors are about to decide. Whoops. She tripped over Pam's tangled flags. Then she knocked into Nikki and Violet. Bam! Embarrassed, Tanya immediately got back on her paws. Sorry. I just came to tell you that they're about to choose Dash the musical, the Thea sisters finished, grinning. They may have collided with Tanya, but that didn't dampen their excitement about the show. That's what I was trying to tell you, said Professor Ply. We're supposed to choose the musical today, but to be honest, we don't have any great ideas yet. It needs to be a fun show, with colorful sets and upbeat music. I just haven't found any inspiration yet. As she spoke, Professor Ply noticed the scene in front of her. Holy cheese, Tanya had caused quite and 55. None of the Thea sisters were hurt, but they looked awfully funny. The tangled flags were wrapped around Pam's hair. It reminded the professor of a lion's ruffled-up mane. Nikki was covered in straw that had fallen out of her broom, and she looked like a scarecrow. Violet sat unhappily with an empty bucket on her head, like a sulking tin man. I've got it, we can perform The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. Professor Ply cried. She hugged Tanya warmly. Thank you. That was just the inspiration I needed. Then she ran down the path, leaving the students speechless behind her. The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. Published in 1910, this famous book was written by American author L. Frank Baum. The book tells the story of Dorothy, who is carried to the amazing land of Oz by a tornado. While searching for the way home, she meets three special friends: a lion looking for courage, a scarecrow who wants to become smarter, and a tin man who wishes he had a heart. A story of friendship. The other professors loved Professor Ply's idea to perform The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. The next day, they called a meeting in the main hall to share the news with the students. The Thea sisters sat with Tanya and her best friend, Ellie. Colette had brought a notebook so she could take notes. She CRZED around the hall. Ruby Flashyfur and her friends Zoe, Connie, and Alicia sat in the front row, as usual. Ruby's brother, Ryder, and his friends Craig and Sean sat all the way in the back row. They were obviously trying to look uninterested, but Colette knew they were as curious as everyone else. The Academy's headmaster, Octavius de Mussis, stood up to squeak. "I have an announcement to make," he began, and the students quickly quieted down. Headmaster de Mussis looked around. "Professor Ply has presented us with a Mouse idea for our yearly show. We will perform the musical inspired by the book The Wonderful Wizard of Oz." The students started squeaking excitedly in hushed whispers. Most of them knew the story well, but several of them looked confused. The headmaster motioned to Professor Plotfer, who taught drama. He stepped forward. "The Wonderful Wizard of Oz is the story of a girl named Dorothy and her fascinating trip to a magic world," he began, waving his paws as he talked. "One day, a tornado sweeps into her small town and whisks her away to a strange land. A good witch tells her that a wonderful wizard can help her find her way home." The students whispered approvingly. Professor Plotfer went on. "In our version, Dorothy starts walking along a cheddar brick road, starting an adventure that will teach her the importance of a courageous spirit, a brilliant mind, and a generous heart. But most of all, she learns about the importance of friendship." The Thea sisters smiled at one another. They'd had many adventures together, and their friendship had become stronger because of those fabulous experiences. It seemed like this story had been written just for them. Dorothy's journey. Professor Plotfer continued the story. While Dorothy is on the cheddar brick road, she meets three very unique characters. There is a sweet lion who thought he was a coward, but finds out that he has courage to spare. There is a tin man who would like to have a heart, but learns that he is already filled with love and kindness. And finally, there is a scarecrow who thinks he isn't smart, but ends up using his intelligence to solve problems. Colette took notes on the characters as Professor Plotfer talked. At the end of her journey, Dorothy discovers a great truth before she can go home. The wizard does not have any magic powers. He reminds her that her love for her friends and family is the only magic she needs. The students were silent as they listened to the story. Only the sound of Colette's pencil filled the hall. 00 scratch. Scratch. Professor Ply winked at the Thea sisters and their friends. Thanks to their funny accident the day before, she had been reminded of the characters of that famous story. Professor Camille Ratishnikov, head of the Department of Arts, Music, and Drama, stepped forward next. "We only have a month to rehearse, and the auditions will be very challenging," she warned. "Because this show is a musical, our performers will have to excel in singing and dancing as well as acting." Some of the students groaned. Not everyone was good at all three things. "This is going to be hard," whispered Nikki. Professor Ply handed out flyers with the audition dates and times. "There will be 3 stages of auditions," she explained. "The first audition is for acting and will take place tomorrow with Professor Plotfer." Professor Plotfer gave a silly bow, and everybody burst out laughing. "Any student who passes the acting audition will attend my dance audition the following day," announced Professor Ply. And whoever passes those auditions will go to the singing audition with Professor Arya. Professor Arya waved to the students. Paulina leaned into her friends. Holy cheese, she whispered. I'm going to need a lot of cheese pizza to get through the next 3 days. A colorful cast of characters. The Thea sisters and Tanya left the room and gathered in the hallway outside. Paulina searched on her tablet for more information about the wonderful Wizard of Oz. She read her findings out loud. Dorothy is the leading character, but she has many friends, as well as some enemies, she said. The Wicked Witch of the West, exclaimed Nikki. My grandmother * read me a chapter of the book every night before I went to sleep. The witch was scary, but those were my favorite parts. Paulina sighed. I would read it often to my little sister, Maria. Dorothy reminds me so much of her. I really miss her. Dorothy would be a great role to play, said Violet. But it would be fun if we could each play a role. Pam had an idea. I'm not sure if I want to be on stage. Professor Plotfer was talking to me about doing lighting and set design for the play, and I think I'd like to try that. You'll be great, Colette said. I'm thinking I might stay behind the scenes, too. If I didn't get the role of Dorothy, I wouldn't want to play the Wicked Witch. Paulina smiled. Colette, I can't imagine you in that role. The Wicked Witch is always causing trouble. And you have too much fashion sense for that part, added Nikki. You'd have to wear a long, IEG wig to cover your blonde curls. Plus a black pointy hat, black robes, and green striped socks. That's what the pictures in my book looked like. Colette nodded. Definitely not fashion forward. Then the friends heard a familiar voice behind them. Here you are. I've been looking for you. Ruby Flashyfur walked up to them. Her long, red hair hung down her back, and she wore a black hat and green striped socks. Remind you of anyone? Nikki whispered to Colette. A fair challenge? Ruby smiled and held out her paw. The Thea sisters and Tanya were totally squeakless. Why was she being so friendly? Last time there was a show, we all wanted to play Juliet in Mouseo and Juliet, she reminded them. And now we all want the role of Dorothy. But I promise, there will be no tricks this time around. May the best mouse win. The Thea sisters looked at one another, surprised. This was not the arrogant Ruby Flashyfur that they all knew. Even Ruby's friends seemed beuzzied by her friendly behavior. I'm happy to hear that, said Paulina. It will be a fair challenge, Ruby continued, because I am the best singer and dancer in the academy. I don't need any tricks to win the lead this time. Then she walked off, proudly holding her snout in the air. She had meant what she said. She could feel it in her fur. The role of Dorothy was hers, guaranteed. Then her cell phone rang. Hi, Mom, said Ruby. I heard about the show, said Ruby's mother, Rebecca Flashyfur. It's a great opportunity for you to show off your talents. I have already contacted some FAMOUSE journalists to interview you on opening night. But you must get that leading role. Don't worry, Ruby promised her. It's a sure thing this time. It had better be, said her mother testily. I've already told all of my friends that you've got the lead part in the show, and I don't want to look foolish. Take care of your rivals so that nothing can go wrong. Ruby sighed. She had really wanted to play fair this time. But when her mom put pressure on her, it was hard to say no. Okay, Mom. I'll handle it. I'm an athlete, not a singer. The boy mice wandered out of the main hall. Shin could not stop talking about the show. It's going to be awesome, he said. Better than extra cheese pizza. Yeah, right, teased Ryder. You're just excited because you and Pam are going to be working on the lighting and sets together. Tall and athletic Craig gave Shin a big pat on the back that almost knocked over the smaller mouse. An entire month working with Pam. That's like your dream come true, right, Shin? Shin blushed all the way to the tips of his ears, clearing his throat. What about you, Craig? Ryder asked. Are you going to audition? This time it was Craig who blushed, and he stuttered. Me? No, I'm not into it. Come on, said Shin. I know you like musicals. You made me watch Les Miserables with you, like, 17 times. It's just. Craig looked uncomfortable. I can't sing, okay? I get embarrassed and my voice cracks. He started walking backward, and then... Bam! He backed up right into Colette. Her notebook slipped out of her paws. Oops. Sorry, Craig mumbled. Pages of colorful sketches fell out of Colette's notebook. Violet picked them up. What are these? She asked. Tanya looked at them. These are amazing drawings. You were born to be a costume designer, Colette, said Pam as she examined the sketches with a smile on her face. That's why your pencil kept moving during the meeting, guessed Violet. Inspired, Colette had been sketching costumes for the show. Colette shrugged modestly. They're just sketches, I'm not sure if Tanya and I took a sewing class, interrupted Ellie, excited. We can help you make the costumes. Tanya nodded. We should start working on them right away. The Thea sisters and their friends started to walk off, talking about their plans. Sorry again, Colette. Craig called out. He looked sad and worried. So, Craig, Shin resumed. Are you going to audition or not? Craig frowned. No way. I'm an athlete, not a singer. Let's improvise. A large group of students gathered in the campus garden at 9 the next morning. It was time for the first audition, acting. Violet, Nikki, and Paulina were nervous, but their friends encouraged them. You'll be fabulous, said Pam, waving as she went off to work on the set design. We'll be thinking of you, said Colette, Ellie, and Tanya. Then they headed off to the theater to work on the costumes. Ruby Flashyfur had plans that morning, to sabotage. All right, she said, as the Ruby crew gathered around her in a circle. Our goal is to eliminate the Thea sisters from the audition. Luckily, Pamela and Colette have made it easy for us. I bet they were afraid to audition once they were sure that I was trying out. Purple-haired Zoe grinned. I knew you weren't serious about all that fair challenge stuff, she said. Connie and I have already prepared the perfect trick for you. It's the best, promised black-haired Connie. She opened her paw to reveal a piece of red candy. Ooh, candy, said blonde-haired Alicia. That looks yummy. Connie quickly snatched away her paw. Well, they're not. Their filling is made of super spicy pepper cheese. Ruby grinned. Good thinking, Ruby crew, she said. I want to see how the Thea sisters will be able to talk with very hot throats. Her friends burst out laughing just as Professor Plotfer asked everyone to quiet down. One of the most challenging exercises for an actor is improvisation, he began. That is acting by following what happens in the moment, without a script. And I think a challenge is just what we need today. Some of